All right, welcome back to the Atlanta Child Murders Revisited. It is 16 November still, and this is my fourth video on this tonight. And we're going to get back into the ATKID Wikipedia um, news articles here, or writings. So, all right, let's see. At a 1981 hearing, Williams requested for a new trial wherein he was represented by attorneys Alan Dershowitz, William Kunstler, and Bobby Lee Cook. Now, just to let you know, Bobby Lee Cook was also the attorney for Wayne Williams, for Michael Thevis. Okay. Also, incidentally, Alan Dershowitz was the attorney for Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. And William Kunstler just kind of makes his reputation by um, taking on every stray dog that's out there. Okay. But yeah, Bobby Lee Cook was the attorney back in 1979 when when Michael Thevis was on trial for triple murder. Bobby Lee Cook was his attorney up in Rome, Georgia. Incidentally, um, Chet Detlinger did some investigation work for Bobby Lee Cook back in 78, 79, 80, 81. Wow, isn't it a small world? Anyway, but yeah, there's Bobby Lee Cook. And you'll see on videos in 1978, I'm going to show you this video. And it shows Ed Garland. And he's coming out of the Atlanta Fulton County Courthouse with Patricia McLean, who basically is under indictment for receiving money to assist in the escape of Michael Thevis. Okay. And they get her out on bail and stuff like that. And of course, that's where she says, "Oh, all I care about is getting back and taking care of my little dog. And my little dog hadn't been fed in 5 days. Oh my God. Oh, horrible." And then as she and Ed are walking down the sidewalk, walking away from the news media, they're kind of following them with the cameras. And you see none other than Bobby Lee Cook. For some reason he came all the way from, I mean, they haven't even found Michael Thevis yet, and they haven't even indicted him and charged him in up in Rome, Georgia. But somehow Bobby Lee Cook knew to be there, and he just happens to be there on the same sidewalk as Ed Garland. And he goes, "Hey," you hear him say, "Hey, Ed." And Ed Garland turns around, "Oh, hey, Bobby." And then they start chatting and talking, walking off with Patricia McLean. Isn't it a small fucking world? Anyway, but yeah, so they had to run him by Bobby Lee Cook because that was the another attorney. Okay, that was a hell of a lot better than Lynn Watley to help out with Wayne Williams in his trial. And the thing is, so it says investigators from both Atlanta and Georgia and Fulton County agencies testified they had little or no knowledge of the GBI's investigation because it was a secret investigation, confidential investigation. They're not going to tell everybody because what if they're wrong? Okay. At the same hearing, an informant for the GBI reported that in 1981, Charles Sanders had admitted to killing Getter while Whitaker was wearing a concealed microphone. Again, it goes to show you that anybody can say anything. Hey, I'm the king of fucking Poland. I deserve to have my royal throne. You know, I can say anything. It doesn't mean it's fucking true. Just look at Trump. Okay. Anyway, in May of 2004, about 6 months after becoming okay, so that's the end of that one. So we'll back up here. Now, Alan Dershowitz always gets his man off. William Kunstler usually gets his man off. Bobby Lee Cook couldn't get his man off, okay? But, and they all walked away. They did their best. They rolled the dice and they gave it their best shot, but it didn't work. Because you know what, folks? And you know why you don't hear Alan Dershowitz and William Kunstler talking about this case anymore? Or Bobby Lee Cook? I think some of them are dead, right? It's because they know by looking at the evidence through discovery that Wayne Williams is guilty as hell. But of course, your attorney can't come out and say, yeah, we looked at the evidence and my client's guilty as hell. You get disbarred. You can't say that. So you keep quiet. You take your money from Ed Garland and Michael Thevis and you go home. Okay? Okay, I got my money. Like I said, attorneys aren't doing their job for the truth. They're doing their job for money. They're fucking mercenaries. Okay? We all do shitty jobs that we don't like just for the money. Not because we believe that Delta Airlines is the greatest fucking airlines in the world, that we believe that JCPenney's is the greatest company in the world. Is JCPenney still around? I don't know. Not that we believe Domino's Pizza is the best fucking pizza company in the world. We're doing it for the money. We're all fucking mercenaries, folks. But attorneys are a special kind of mercenary. Okay? If the devil gave them enough money, they would all, be on the devil's side. So, but another thing why Alan Dershowitz and William Kunstler don't talk about this case no more and aren't backing Wayne Williams, he didn't have an alibi list. I said an alibi list. And what that means is for every victim, okay, you're going to have a place that you weren't or you were that wasn't near the victim that'll prove that you didn't kill him. And you're going to have somebody that was with you or saw you near that location that proves you didn't kill that victim. And so it's real simple. A one, a first year fucking paralegal could figure this out. You go to Wayne, you say, hey, we're going to make a list of all the victims and where they were at when they disappeared. And we need you to make a list and the time and date. And we need you to make a list of where you were on that date and who you were with on that date. That proves you didn't kill any of those people. And you know what happens? Wayne Williams either says I'm not going to do it or I can't do it. Oh, why not? You didn't kill any of these kids, right, Wayne? Oh, no, but I'm not going to help you with that list. Why not? This is going to help you walk free. Well, he's not going to tell him, okay? The reason why Wayne doesn't come up with a fucking alibi list, okay, that proves he wasn't anywhere near any of these victims, and he has a written statement, a video of a witness that was with him, like, oh, Wayne couldn't have been killing Nathaniel Cater because he was in the back of the Sansucci Lounge with me, silly. What were you doing in the back of the Sansucci Lounge? Oh, he was fucking me in the rear end at 9 o'clock at night. Notice how he came up with the fucking alibi. First, I was at home and sick, and then as soon as Henry came out and said, no, I saw them both holding hands at 9:30 coming out of the Rialto Theater, Wayne Williams came out with a fucking alibi real quick, right? But not on the other ones. Besides, Wayne Williams has the right to plead the fifth, not to incriminate yourself. Okay? But if you're serious that you didn't kill anybody and you want to get out of fucking prison, you would have come out with an alibi list 40 fucking years ago. 44 years ago, right? 40, yeah, 44, 44, 43 years ago. That's the first fucking thing I would have done. That would prove that, hey, when Patrick Baltazar was getting kidnapped at the Omni, I wasn't there. I got 3 fucking witnesses that saw me, at Lenox Square. And when, you know, Yusuf Bell was getting kidnapped off the streets there, oh, I wasn't there. I was at Hotlanta Studios in recording session. And he should have that for every goddamn victim, right? But see, the crazy thing in America is that you don't have to prove where you were. You don't have to prove you didn't do it. Okay? You don't have to prove you didn't do it. All you have to prove is that the evidence didn't show you did it. Okay? You don't have to prove where you're at. You can stay quiet. The government has to prove that you did it. All you have to do is poke holes in the government's just enough reasonable doubt. And they couldn't even do that. So again, the reason why Wayne Williams doesn't have an alibi list with at least 29 fucking written testimonies or videos of witnesses that proves he wasn't anywhere near the victims because he was strangling and killing all those victims. He has no alibi. Case closed, folks. The greatest reason that someone doesn't come up with an alibi is because they fucking did it. Because if you didn't do it, you'd come up with a fucking alibi list showing you weren't there. The Sanders brothers have the greatest alibi list of all. The FBI was watching them. They got recordings and logs showing where these guys were at when those kids were being killed and the other adults were being killed. Same thing with Jamie Brooks. Jamie Brooks was fucking in jail when all these people were being killed. From what, February 1981? Same thing with Will Coxon. Will Coxon was in jail. Tom Terrell was in jail when all these people were being killed in February, March, April, and May. You can't kill nobody if you're in fucking jail or if you're under surveillance. That's your alibi right there. Because the jailer can say, yeah, he was logged in jail, cell number 5 on this date. He didn't get out for good behavior. And then they went to prison after that. The only ones that didn't go to prison were the Sanders brothers, and they were under surveillance. So where's Wayne Williams' alibi list? And again, there's this poor little guy out there running around, totally brainwashed by the name of Dwayne Hendricks. Is it Dwayne? And he's been just bamboozled by Wayne Williams, doing all his bidding on the outside. And Dwayne Hendricks, the best thing you could do for Wayne is to write down. I'll help you out. Take notes. Okay? Matter of fact, let's see. Oh, there it is right there. It's on the Wikipedia page. Wow, look at that. Edward Smith, 21 July. Alfred Evans, 25 July. You can just copy it right from the fucking Wikipedia page, Mr. Dwayne Hendricks. All the victims' names and the dates, they all disappeared. Isn't that amazing? And then you just go to Wayne and say, hey, Wayne, where were you on the 13th of March when Timothy Hill was disappearing? Just give me a list of places you're at and who you were with. And I'm going to go interview those people with a video camera or tape recorder. Or they're going to do put them down in front of an attorney, and they're going to give a deposition. Yeah, I was with Wayne Williams when we were in the back of the San Suchi Lounge, and we were having such a good time on the 13th of March. He couldn't have killed those kids because he was with me all day, all night. Ooh, he can go all night. Pretty fucking simple. But do they do that? It's been 40, what? Been in jail since 2000 or 1982 minus 1982. He's 43 fucking years old. You know, he was 23 when he got convicted. I'd be damned if I got to 24 before I came out with the fucking alibi list, Mr. Dwayne Hendricks. Well, but of course, I don't even think you were born then, were you? Were you even alive in 1981, 82? Or you're just a little kid, right? That living in Texas, you had no idea about any of this shit. But anyway, that's what you can do, little Dwayne Hendricks, is help Wayne. Help Wayne. Free Wayne project. And how you get there is you make an alibi list. It's already done for you on Wikipedia. All you gotta do, look at this. Oh my God, this is amazing. You can copy and paste. You go like that. Wow, isn't that amazing? You can do the whole goddamn list. And then you go on there and you right click. You see that and it says copy. And then you bring up a Word document and you hit paste. Okay? You know how that works? Copy paste. And then paste all on there. And now you got the list. You didn't have to do any research or look it up or write it down. It's already printed right there for you. Then you just go and you print it out. And then you just make another little column over here. Where was Wayne? It's like, where's Waldo? Okay? Where's Waldo? No, it's where's Wayne? Where was Wayne? Okay? And then you make a little column. It's like, where's Waldo Wayne Williams? And then you write down here and you get Wayne on the phone. You go down and visit him on your little conjugal visits. Okay? And you go, and, after you do your business in the conjugal bedroom, you pull out your little list and go, hi, Wayne. I'm trying to help you get out of prison. So look, why don't you tell me where you're at on the 6th of February, 1981, when Patrick Balthazar disappeared? Because they say you killed him. Okay? And where were you on the 2nd of March, 1981, when Joseph Bell disappeared? Oh, yeah, that's right. Joseph Bell was getting in the car with you. But maybe you just dropped him off someplace else, right? You dropped him off someplace else, and then someone else got him, right? Maybe that's what it was, right? All you got to do, little Dwayne Hendricks, to get your little compadre out of jail is do an alibi list. I just showed you how to do it. It's so simple. Even you could do it. And then you just ask Wayne, where was he at? It's like, where's Waldo? Where were you at, Wayne? Oh, my God. And then once you get that list, and I need someone who was with you, that I can talk to as a witness, that'll prove you were there in the studio or in the back of the Sansucci Lounge, okay? And then you get that, you go interview them, you get a recorder, or you get a video camera, use your phone. They have these crazy things called video cameras on your phone. You record them, and then you download it, and then you go to an attorney with that list and those affidavits or that video recording and say, look, we want to get a habeas corpus to get my little buddy out of my love of my life out of jail. That's how you do it, Dwayne. If you love Wayne Williams as much as you do and you want him to be free, that's how you do it. I just helped you. I problem solved. Wayne would go before a judge. They'd show him 29 different fucking witnesses that said Wayne was nowhere near those kids. And then Wayne's out of jail tomorrow. Stop doing stupid video recordings of people who don't know shit about whatever. Videotape the people who were with Wayne that can prove he wasn't strangling the life out of Larry Rogers or strangling the life out of Jimmy Ray Payne. That's how you get your little buddy out of jail. And then when you get him out of jail, then you and little, Wayne Williams can go get a nice little apartment together, and grow a little garden in the backyard, and he can collect his Social Security. Although he probably doesn't have much Social Security because he's been in prison all that time, right? But you two can just live a happy little life. And that'll be it. And then we'll have to go out there and look for others that the other killers, right? Anyway, that's my speech on that bullshit. And again, let me just, in case you didn't hear me before, the reason why no one's ever done any of that, you got brilliant fucking attorneys like Alan Dershowitz who never loses a fucking case, okay? Did you ever hear of the Klaus Bluo, whatever this name's case? The guy killed his wife, but he got him off on a technicality because he had a whole graduate class of students study the case and went over all the evidence after he got convicted and got the case thrown out. That's what Alan Dershowitz does. He looks for the flaws. And the flaw right here is there's no alibi list. Okay? The flaw is if Wayne didn't kill any of them, he's got 29 people that can tell you that he was nowhere near them. That's 29 fucking victims. You take 29 victim depositions and videos before a judge, Wayne will be out before the fucking door shuts. Okay? It's that fucking simple. And the only reason Alan Dershowitz or William Kunstler or Bobby Lee Cook or Mary Welcome or Ed Garland or Lynn Watley, none of these fucking attorneys ever did an alibi list, okay, is because Wayne killed every single one of those victims. Every single one. Except maybe Angela Lanier. We're still working on that one. You hear me, Dwayne Hendricks? He killed them all. And you're a sucker helping him deceive people because you're a fucking idiot. Now, this is nothing personal. I'm actually on your side. I'm trying to help you because are you going to spend the next 20 fucking years living a lie for a fucking murderer? Or are you going to go about and have a normal life? Go get married, have some fucking kids. Maybe you already have that. Stop wasting your time. Either get the alibi list or get out. It's that fucking simple. Anyway, moving on. Goddamn reality. What a fucking concept, huh? In May 2004, about 6 months after becoming the DeKalb County police chief in November 2003, Louis Graham reopened the investigation into the deaths of 5 DeKalb County victims: 10-year-old Aaron White, 13-year-old Curtis Walker, 9-year-old Yusuf Bell, 17-year-old William Barrett, 11-year-old Patrick Baltazar. Graham, one of the original investigators in this case, said he doubted that Wayne Williams, the man convicted of the 2 killings and blamed for the 22 others, was guilty of all of them. On June 21st, 2006, the DeKalb County Police dropped the reinvestigation of the Atlanta child murders after resigning. Graham was replaced by acting chief Nick Marinelli, who said, "We dredged up what we had and nothing panned out. So until something does, or additional evidence comes our way, or there's forensic feedback from existing evidence, we will continue to pursue the other cold cases that are within our reach." So even they looked into all of it. They couldn't find anything. Graham did that as a political stunt to get reelected, but he had to resign. Okay? If Graham really wanted to solve the murders, okay, he could have done DNA tests on the victims, whatever evidence he had, but he didn't do it because he was just using it to get elected, folks, or reelected, I should say. On January 29, 2007, attorneys for the state of Georgia agreed to allow DNA testing for the dog hair that was used to help convict Williams. This decision was in response to a legal filing as part of Williams' effort to appeal his conviction and life sentences. Williams' lawyer, Jack Martin, asked where's Jack Martin at? Jack Martin's gone too, right? Good old Lynn Watley was still there for a while. Asked a Fulton County Superior Court judge to allow DNA tests on canine and human hair and blood, stating that the results might help Williams win a new trial. On June 26, 2007, the DNA results, you see right there? You see that? It took them only 6 months to get the results. But here we are 6 years later from the DNA testing that they sent off in 2019. Okay? And we still don't know the results. They know the results, it's just not what they want it to be. Okay? Because they've been telling people for years and coddling their ignorance to get elected, and to find out and have to tell them the truth would probably get them unelected. And now the same lady wants to be your governor, which that's never going to happen. The DNA results showed that the hairs on the bodies contain the same mitochondrial DNA sequence as Williams' dog, a sequence that occurs in only 1 out of 100 dogs. Dr. Elizabeth Whittam, director of the UC Davis laboratory that carried out the testing, told the Associated Press that while the results were fairly significant, they don't conclusively point to Williams' dog as the source of the hair, because the lab was able to test only the mitochondrial DNA, which, unlike nuclear DNA, cannot be shown to be unique to one dog. So they did do testing later on that and found the DNA sequence matched exactly. Okay? All right. It says later in 2007, the FBI performed DNA tests on 2 human hairs found on the victims of mitochondrial DNA sequence in the hairs. And see, there's the FBI doing DNA tests on human beings. Why isn't the FBI doing the DNA tests instead of some stupid Utah lab? Would eliminate 99.5% of persons by not matching their DNA, and would eliminate 98% of African American persons by not matching their DNA. However, they match Williams' DNA, thus not eliminating the possibility the hairs were his. They could have continued that even further and found out that it matched exactly. On March 21st, 2019, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Bottoms and Atlanta Police Chief Erica Shields noticed that Williams would retest evidence, announced that officials would retest evidence for the murders, which would be gathered by the Atlanta Police Department, Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and Georgia Bureau of Investigation. At the news conferences, Mayor Bottoms said, it may be there is nothing left to be tested, but I don't think history will judge us by our actions, and we'll be able to say we tried. In July 2021, Bottoms announced that DNA had been identified that sampled in 2 cases that would be subjected to additional analysis by the private lab. Investigators combed through 40% of the original DNA evidence and had sent that to the same private lab for testing on June 21st, 2021. As of December 2022, no results have been made public despite requests from victims' families. As of 2019, Wayne Williams continues to maintain his innocence. So, again, my question is, why did it take them almost 2 years to pick out just 40% of the DNA evidence? They should have picked out everything immediately and sent it to the FBI. Okay? You don't think that the Atlanta police, 40 years later, can't send samples, DNA, or, samples that may hold DNA to the FBI laboratory to have them test it? and get a result back within a month or less? Hmm. Anyway, all right. All right. So most of this other stuff is not much. It just talks about things that were written about it. That's it, which is not much. In January 2018, documentary filmmaker Payne Lindsay began releasing a podcast called Atlanta Monster, covering the murders with interviews from family members of victims, law enforcement officials, and individuals alive in the Atlanta area at the time of the murders, and Wayne Williams. In the second season of Mindhunter, covers the murders, the series which focus on the history of the FBI's behavioral science unit, build dramatic arc of series over the FBI, two BSU agents who joined the Atlanta investigation. In the series' fictional treatment, Agent Ford has a role of insisting that the 13 murders are investigated at the time, that work in the one single killer, and in that order, and gain a victim's trust. He may be African American himself. This line of deduction clashes with that of his colleague, Agent Tench. The Atlanta police and the African American community of Atlanta, many of whom believe, in light of the Georgia's history of hate crimes and racial violence, the killings are the work of the Ku Klux Klan. So, again, that's not exactly true, because the Atlanta police and the FBI believed it was had to be an African American. Now, this Mindhunter second series focuses mostly on the Atlanta child murders, and it's all bullshit. Okay. First of all, um, they have Ford, who's supposed to be Douglas, coming down and staying um, at the Omni. Okay, where he's befriended by a clerk, a desk clerk at the Omni, and she takes him out like he thinks he's going on a date to get some action, and she takes him, and they meet Camille Bell, and they meet Jeffrey Mathis's mother at a restaurant, and that never happened. Okay, Douglas only came down in January and walked around with the FBI and the Atlanta police. He never met with the victims' families. Okay, and then they got, you know, um, and no one in the behavioral science unit was part of the task force. Okay, they got that completely wrong. Okay, and they make this big deal about Tench and his adopted kid, and how this adopted kid's probably going to turn into a psycho killer because he's not there. And but Tench and Ford, which would be John Douglas and his behavioral science unit people, they never were as part of the Atlanta task force, although they've got them. And then they've got Ford, who's supposed to be Douglas, joining up with Camille Bell, and they're going to go out, and Camille Bell's going to do a march, and he's going to go ahead of them, and hammer into the ground where all these victims were killed, these big white crosses. I mean, how fucking stupid can you be? That the Ku Klux Klan was burning white crosses. Okay, but the FBI agent is going to go around all these black neighborhoods where these victims disappeared or were found murdered, and just, white guy, he's just hammering up these white crosses, okay, with the victim's name, in in these black neighborhoods. Like, that's not going to attract attention, or maybe someone going to beat his ass. Most likely, yes, but it's almost laughable. Okay, the whole season of Mindhunter, where they deal with the Atlanta child murders, is completely laughable. Okay, they get it wrong on every single fucking count. They didn't base it on the the Douglas book called Mindhunter. The writers just went off into creative la la land. Okay, which had nothing to do with reality. Anyway, all right, so we'll keep going here. And that is the end of that Wikipedia article. Now, this is, I believe, going to be about Wayne Williams, and it can't be that long. All right. So you see, 27. So you see here, Wayne is a Gemini, born May 27th. I think it's the 28th, actually, 1958. Okay. And I am not a Gemini. All right. Okay, we'll go over this real quick, and I think this will probably end it. Uh, Wayne Bertram Williams, born May 27th, 1958, is an American convicted murderer and suspect serial killer who is serving life imprisonment for the 1981 killings of two men in Atlanta, Georgia. Although never tried for the additional murders, he is also believed to be responsible for at least 24 of the 30 Atlanta murders of 1970 1981, and also known as the Atlanta child murderer. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to look up something real quick. Hold on one second. All right. So you hear this all the time. They say, well, Wayne was only convicted of the killing of Nathaniel Cater and Jimmy Ray Payne. He was never convicted of killing any of the kids. So there's got to be another murderer and he's still out there, right? Bullshit. Okay. So there's Ted Bundy. You remember Ted Bundy? All those murders that happened right before Wayne Williams. Okay. From 74 to 78, Ted Bundy was in Seattle, killing people there, killing girls. And then he went to law school, I think in Utah, was killing people there. And in Colorado, he gets caught, goes on trial in Colorado. He escapes, goes to Florida, and he gets caught. Okay. He's indicted May of 1978. And look at this, folks. His trial started June 1979 down in Florida, right before the Atlanta child murders started. Okay? And look at this. The jury also allowed to hear details of Jaroch's previous kidnapping and finally deliberated for less than 7 hours for convicting Bundy on July 24th, 1979. Alfred Evans disappeared the very next day on 25 July 1979, folks. So Wayne Williams was following the trial of Ted Bundy, okay, and how he got away with it. And he continued it, okay? The very next day after Bundy got convicted, you know, Wayne's thinking, I'm better than these motherfuckers. I'm better than Ted Bundy. I'm not going to get caught. So he goes out and gets another victim. Now, he had already executed Edward Smith with a 22 caliber weapon. Now he's going to go get him a real victim, Alfred Evans, and dump it in the same location the very next day. And also, what did I say here? On the same day that, you see right there? On the same day that Michael Thieves is convicted by grand jury or by the jury in Fulton County Courthouse, right across the highway, Yusuf Bell disappears. The same fucking day, folks. Anyway, so for the people that say, oh, well, Wayne was never convicted of any of these other murders. Well, let me show you something, folks. Ted Bundy, okay, at one trial is convicted of killing what? Two victims here. Another trial convicted of killing another one. Okay. So he's sentenced for a third time. Give him 3 death penalties. Okay? 3 death penalties. That's 1980. It'll take 9 years for them to put him in the electric chair. Okay? That's for the last 3 victims. Okay? They don't have a list of victims here, but there's some of them. They don't know how many victims he killed. Okay? There were numerous. Many of them were in Seattle, some were in Oregon, some were in Utah, and some were in Colorado. He just confessed to some of them, not all of them. They never found some of the bodies. Was he tried for those murders in Seattle and Oregon and Utah and Colorado? No. He just was attributed to them. He was confessed to some, but not all. There's Linda Healy. Was he convicted of killing Linda Healy? Oh, the murderer must still be out there, right? They were able to link it to him because of the pattern, how he killed them. Okay? There's 18-year-old Karen Sparks and Mary Adams and Terry Caldwell. And so he used a ruse to get them in the car, just like Wayne did. Wayne used his, oh, I'm going to make you famous, selling the dream. Okay? They're going to be the next Jackson 5. Well, Ted Bundy wasn't that sophisticated. He used, he knows that women are, susceptible to people that are injured. So he used to have this cast that he had on his leg, a fake cast, or had on his arm in a sling. And then he would carry his books, and then he would say, hey, I need some. He would approach these women and say, hey, I need some help. Sometimes he had a sailboat, and he needed help putting the sailboat thing on, okay? But then he would give them the books, so now their hands are occupied, and say, hey, can you put those in my passenger seat for me, or in the back seat for me? And as soon as they got in the car, he either was behind them on the passenger side or was in the driver's side, and he had a steel bar that he put inside the cast, okay? Just like Wayne had a steel bar by the driver's seat, okay? And he would hit him over the head and knock him out and push him into the car and then drive off. And that's how he was able to get them, okay? He was never convicted of all these murders. I don't know, it was like 20 women, something like that. He was never convicted of any of these murders, but they were all attributed to him because some of them he confessed on and gave details of where to find the bodies and the skeletons and stuff like that. You see, here's one in Oregon, Corvallis. Now, he had a girlfriend, okay? And another thing he did is he worked at a crisis hotline that young people would call in and they were depressed or whatever. He'd say, kill yourself. No, he wouldn't say. He was doing that. And what he was doing was some kind of psychological thing to learn about victims. Some woman got beat up by her boyfriend or raped or whatever. And so he's listening to that and he's using that information. Okay? And so anyway, I think he had this girlfriend. It was a girlfriend or just a friend. I can't remember exactly. And she actually wrote a book about him called The Stranger Beside Me. I think it was a girlfriend. And see how this all started is he had this girl that he was infatuated with when he was younger. And he wasn't doing very good in school, didn't seem very serious to her. And so she left him. She dumped him. And then he went off to school and, got close to finishing school and was about to go to law school. And he recontacted her. And then she found out all that. And then they started dating for a while. And I think she was in another state. And he was playing a game with her. Oh, I'm not good enough for you. Well, you're not good enough for me. And eventually, right around the time he started killing these women, he dumps her. And what they found out, matter of fact, the woman was really shocked that when she looks at the pictures of the women, all of them look very similar to her in the beginning. So she was very frightened about all that, okay, once she found out what he was doing. But that was his reason for doing that, okay? But they never convicted him for the murders in Washington, Oregon, Utah, or Colorado, but they attributed those murders and took them off the books and stopped looking for killers, okay? But for some reason, people in Atlanta, again, he got 3 death penalties in Florida. He's not going anywhere. What's the point of trying him in Washington, Oregon, Utah, and Colorado? Nobody would put up with it. They'd say, hey, look, the guy already got, a judge would even throw it out. He'd say, look, the guy already got 3 death penalties. He's not getting out. And he didn't. Why are you wasting the taxpayers' money? District attorneys are elected officials. Anybody running against that district attorney say, look, that asshole wasted your money, $500,000, bringing Ted Bundy all the way from Florida, who'd already gotten 3 death penalty convictions, and brought him all the way up here to Seattle just to put him on trial and waste all of our time and all our money. He would lose that fucking election for district attorney, right? So that's what happened. That's why Wayne was never brought up on charges and tried on the other murders. 2 life sentences, folks. In Georgia, you're not getting out. It's got to be pretty fucking substantial. And it was, because it went to appeals court, nothing. Went to the Supreme Court of Georgia, nothing. Habeas corpus court, nothing. You ain't getting out, folks. Unless he gets pardoned by Keisha, Bottoms if she becomes fucking governor, which that probably isn't happening either. You never know. All right. So there's John Douglas, criminal profiler. This is the guy that Hayden Ford's based on. They take a lot of liberty on this guy. They develop, see, the behavioral science unit. Okay. That movie with, not Hannibal, the Silence of the Lambs. Okay. The behavioral science unit, they used Jodie Foster, because they knew he had a thing for young women, to get information, to talk to him, to get information out of him. Okay? And, like my dad says, there's only a few ways to skin a cat. Okay? Everybody kind of does the same thing. We all do the same thing in the morning. We all get up. Most of us, the alarm clock goes off. We get up. We go to the shower. We take a shower. We use soap. Most of us. I use a washcloth. We scrub our skin. We put shampoo in our hair and scrub our hair. We rinse the soap out. We towel dry off. Most of us. Okay? We put our underwear on. You don't put your pants on and then your underwear. Okay, you don't put your coat on and then your shirt over your coat. You put your shirt on, your t-shirt, your shirt, and then your coat, right? And then your gloves, right? You can do it other ways, but generally everybody kind of does the same thing. Like my dad says, those fucking politicians, those rich guys aren't any better than you and me. They all put their fucking pants on one leg at a time, right? Pretty fucking simple. So most people, okay, including serial killers, are going to go by habit and do things a certain procedure, certain kind of way. First, you got to have a reason why you're killing. Why are you risking going to jail? Why is it so important risking going to prison or possibly getting killed to kill somebody? What's your reasoning behind that? Well, maybe you don't know, but there's something in, you don't just wake up one day and I'm going to go start killing people. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But I'm just saying there's a reason. And then once you've decided there's a reason enough for you to risk your life and risk your, the rest of your life being in prison, you got to have a way to get a victim. Okay, how are you going to get a victim? Well, you set up a ruse. Bundy had his fake cast in his, you know, the injured bird syndrome. Okay, and Wayne had his shtick. I'm going to make you famous. I'm going to make you the next Jackson 5. Now, it may have started off like that. Eventually, it ends up him killing them. Now, whether that was because he got frustrated because he wasn't making it, or because he got into the porn industry, or because I can't see him killing them because they say, "Hey, I'm going to quit because you're not making me a record deal." That doesn't make much sense, right? It's got to be something more that if you're going to kill him, to shut him up, kill him because he just hates black kids, right? I don't know. I mean, how are you going to, you know, there's what 10% of America is African American. That's 30 million African Americans. If you kill 29 African Americans, you're not going to make much dent in the population. So that whole theory doesn't make much sense. You may espouse that, you may believe that, but it's not going to have the results that you want. So I think there's something more there. But you got to have a reason. You got to have a method of recruiting them to get them in the car. How are you going to get them in the car? You're just going to drive by and point a gun at them. Hey, get in my fucking car. This is why the white guys couldn't do it. Okay, driving around a bunch of black areas, and they're gonna, as soon as they open that fucking door, all those black kids are gonna run in 20 different directions, and you're gonna end up with nobody. And they're gonna call the cops. They're gonna tell their parents, and then, some dads and some neighbors are gonna come out with guns and start shooting. You know, and then they're gonna call the cops. Hey, there's a dead white guy on the sidewalk here. You might want to come scrape him up. That's just reality, folks. So you got to have a shtick. You got to. It's just like picking up girls in a bar. You can't just come up and go up to a girl in a bar and grab her ass and say, "Hey, baby, you're coming back to my place, and we're gonna have some wild sex." Good luck with that. After you pick yourself up off the floor, or end up getting beat up by the bouncer and getting thrown out the front door. You got to have some kind of smooth shtick. Hey, baby, what's up? Hey, baby, I saw you in my dreams. Yeah, you're the girl for me. Yeah, honey. Woo. You and me gonna make some beautiful love. I mean, they're gonna run like hell. You got to have something that makes you unique that doesn't make you sound like a fucking psychopath. Okay? You can, hey, baby, I got a brand new, they don't spend 100,000 fucking dollars on a fucking Ferrari or Porsche because they like to go fast in the car. You know why guys get fucking spend $100,000 on a fucking Porsche or a Ferrari? To get pussy, to get a girl. That's exactly why they do that. They're not wasting their fucking time. You could drive down the fucking road in a goddamn Ford Escort, man, or you know, a beat up old Chevy. But why are you spending 100,000 because you know that'll impress the chicks. That'll get them in the car. Once they're in the seat, you got them, right? They're yours. Wayne needs your stick to get him in the car. Hey, I'm going to make you famous. Hey, come on, get in the car. We're going to go up and do some more recordings. We're going to go up and we're going to cut that record deal. That's his stick. That's how he gets him in the car. That's why no one can believe he's the killer. Oh, it can't be Wayne. Wayne's just a fucking loser music guy, right? You got to have his stick. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, he wasn't that smart. So he didn't have to invent a stick. He had prostitutes knocking on his door. Knock, 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 knock. They're actively wanting to get in his car. Hey, baby, how much? $50. He does his thing, and then he kills them. Then he dumps them in the river. That's pretty simple, right? But in this, especially after the killings start, you need a pretty sophisticated stick to get them, if they're supposed to be going to the store and their mom's expecting them to come back, to get in your fucking car. Okay? And then, how do you keep them in the car? Well, if they're expected somewhere, you're going to have to use some kind of coercive force. Either have someone else in the car with you, either you have some way to knock them out, or you're going to have to hold them at gunpoint, which won't last long because as soon as you get up to a stoplight, they're going to bolt. And then, look, these ones that aren't going to the store, hey, well, let's go to my place. You can make some extra money, and then I'll get you over to the studio. Okay? Boom. Let's go over to Memorial, the 881 Memorial, and Jimmy's going to do some more filming of you, okay? Boom. And I can pay $100 this time. Wow, $100 for a 12-year-old in 1979 or 80? Damn, $100. Think what a 12-year-old could do with $100 or $50. I could have bought 100 fucking Crystal burgers, right? Anyway, but that's the deal. Okay, the killer's got to have a reason. He's got to have a shtick, some kind of way to get him in the car. Okay, and then he's got to have some place to kill him because you can't just kill him right there on the street for everybody and their grandmother to see. Okay, and then you got to have some place to get rid of the bodies. You're not going to be like that fucking clown. What was that guy's name? The guy up in Chicago buried him under the fucking house. What, you mean you can't go take him out in the woods somewhere and bury him? You got to bury him under your fucking house? Didn't have much of a brain, right? Wayne was smart. He knew what to do. He knew what to say. He knew the image to put out there. He also knew how to hide them. Hide them where they would be found. Again, you have to ask yourself, why isn't Wayne burying these bodies in the woods? All you got to do is go ahead and dig a pit ahead of time, have it ready, put some lime in the back of the car, get the kid, take him home, kill him, take him out to the pit, put him in the pit, sprinkle it with some lime, cover it with some dirt and some pine straw and some leaves. And then, in a month or so, all the ivy's going to be growing all over it. And no one will ever find that body. There's probably thousands of bodies buried out in the woods in Georgia, around Atlanta, that nobody knows about. Oh, these kids just disappeared. But he didn't. He left them where they would be found. Okay? Even the bodies in the river. Why not put weights on them? They're going to sink to the bottom. You'll never find them, right? No, he wanted them to flow up. He knew they were going to float up. He wanted them to be found because he wanted the terror. And that gives you power. When you can terrorize a whole fucking city, a whole fucking country, you have power, my friend. All right. That's it for now. I've gotten through all that. Now I'm going to go into the Weebly on my next one. @KidWeebly. All right. Take care.